Have you ever wondered about the lost city of Atlantis, a dazzling, advanced civilization swallowed by the sea in a single day and night? It's a story that has captivated treasure hunters, historians, and dreamers for centuries. But where did this incredible tale come from? The answer might surprise you. It wasn't unearthed from some ancient ruin or deciphered from a mysterious map. The legend of Atlantis was born in the mind of one of history's greatest thinkers, the ancient Greek philosopher, Plato. Every movie, every book, every documentary you've ever seen about Atlantis traces back to just two of Plato's works, the Dialogues *, Timaeus *, and Critios *, written around 360 BC. These texts are our only original sources for this legendary city. So, what did Plato actually say? And more importantly, what did he mean by it? Let's dive deep into the original story and separate the philosophical tale from the blockbuster myth. In his Dialogues, Plato introduces the story through a character named Critias, who recalls a tale passed down through his family for generations. The story originally came from the great Athenian statesman Solon, who heard it from Egyptian priests during his travels. These priests, guardians of ancient history, told Solon of a mighty island nation that existed 9,000 years before their time. This was Atlantis. According to the tale, Atlantis was an island located beyond the Pillars of Hercules, which is what the ancient Greeks called the Strait of Gibraltar. This placed it out in the vast Atlantic Ocean. The island was a paradise, larger than Libya and Asia combined, and it was the heart of a great and powerful empire. It was a land of incredible wealth, with rare metals like orichalcum said to be second only to gold adorning its temples. The city itself was a marvel of engineering. It was built in a series of concentric rings of land and water, connected by massive canals and bridges. At the very center stood a magnificent palace and a temple dedicated to Poseidon, the god of the sea, who was the patron deity of Atlantis. The land was fertile, the people were prosperous, and for generations they lived in harmony. The Atlanteans were described as noble and virtuous. They were descendants of Poseidon and a mortal woman named Cleito. The god had divided the island among their 10 sons, with the eldest, Atlas, becoming the first king. For many years, these kings ruled justly. They valued virtue above all else, despised greed, and lived with wisdom and moderation. They were a model society, the perfect state in many ways. But, as the story goes, something changed. Over many generations, the divine part of their nature began to fade, diluted by their mortal side. They could no longer bear their great fortune with grace. Greed, arrogance, and a lust for power consumed them. They forgot the virtues of their ancestors and began to look upon the world with an eye for conquest. Their once perfect society had become corrupt. Seeing this decay, the Atlantean Empire set its sights on the rest of the known world. They assembled a massive army and navy and launched an invasion, sweeping through parts of Libya and Europe. They aimed to enslave everyone in their path. And here is where Plato's own city, Athens, enters the story. According to the tale, Athens stood alone against the might of the Atlantean Empire. This wasn't the Athens of Plato's time, but an idealized, prehistoric version of the city. A perfect state that embodied all the virtues the Atlanteans had lost. While all other Greek states faltered, ancient Athens led the resistance. They fought with incredible bravery and skill, and against all odds, they defeated the invading Atlantean forces, liberating the peoples they had conquered. The story reaches its dramatic climax shortly after this great battle. The gods, looking down upon the corruption and hubris of the Atlanteans, decided to deliver a final, terrible judgment. In a single, dreadful day and night of violent earthquakes and floods, the entire island of Atlantis was swallowed by the sea, disappearing beneath the waves forever. And the heroic Athenian army, in a tragic twist of fate, was also wiped out by the cataclysm. And that's where Plato's story ends. The Dialogue *, Critias *, cuts off mid-sentence, leaving the tale unfinished. We never hear the full details of the war or the final moments of the city. This abrupt ending has only added to the mystery and speculation over the centuries. So, the big question remains, was Plato telling a true story? Was he passing down a genuine historical account of a real lost civilization? For most modern historians and scholars, the answer is a firm no. There is no archaeological evidence, no mention in any other ancient texts, and no geological record that supports the existence of a massive continent-sized island sinking in the Atlantic. So if it wasn't history, what was it? The key lies in understanding Plato himself. He was a philosopher, not a historian. His primary goal was not to record past events, but to explore ideas about justice, virtue, politics, and the ideal state. Most scholars believe that Atlantis was a philosophical allegory, a thought experiment brought to life. Think about the two main powers in the story, Atlantis and ancient Athens. Atlantis represents the corrupt state of society that starts out perfect, but is ultimately destroyed by its own wealth, power, and greed. It's a cautionary tale about what happens when a nation loses its moral compass. On the other hand, the prehistoric Athens of the story represents Plato's ideal state, the kind of society he described in his most famous work, The Republic. This Athens is noble, courageous, and values justice and the common good above all else. They are the philosophical heroes of the story. So, the tale of Atlantis versus Athens is really a story about ideas. It's a dramatic illustration of Plato's political philosophy, a battle between the flawed, materialistic state and the virtuous, ideal one. By creating this grand, epic narrative, Plato was able to make his philosophical points in a way that was far more engaging and memorable than a dry, abstract argument. He was using the power of storytelling to teach. It is a testament to Plato's skill as a writer that his philosophical tool has been mistaken for history for over 2,000 years. He created a world so vivid and a story so compelling that people want it to be true. The idea of a lost golden age, a technologically advanced utopia, is an incredibly powerful and enduring myth. Over the centuries, the story has been reinterpreted, embellished, and completely transformed. From Renaissance scholars to 19th century mystics and modern-day conspiracy theorists, each era has projected its own hopes and fears onto the legend of Atlantis. It has become a symbol for everything from ancient aliens and secret knowledge to a warning about climate change. But if we go back to the source, back to Plato, we find a story that is less about a physical place and more about a timeless human struggle. It's a tale about the conflict between virtue and corruption, wisdom and hubris, the ideal and the reality. Plato didn't give us a treasure map to a sunken city. He gave us a mirror to look at ourselves and our own societies. The legend of Atlantis is a powerful reminder that the greatest treasures aren't made of gold or ore, but of wisdom, justice, and virtue. And the greatest dangers aren't earthquakes or floods, but the quiet erosion of character that can bring down even the mightiest of empires. Have you ever wondered if the legendary city of Atlantis was more than just a myth? For centuries, this tale of a utopian island civilization that vanished into the sea has captivated thinkers, explorers, and dreamers. But what if there are real, scientific clues hidden beneath the waves, pointing to its existence? Today, we re-dive in deep into the most compelling theories and potential locations for the lost city of Atlantis. Our journey begins with Plato, the ancient Greek philosopher who first described Atlantis in his dialogues, Timaeus and Critias. He painted a picture of a magnificent island, larger than Libya and Asia combined, situated beyond the Pillars of Hercules, which we now know as the Strait of Gibraltar. According to Plato, this advanced civilization, rich in resources and architectural marvels, angered the gods with its hubris, and was swallowed by the sea in a single day and night of misfortune. But was this a cautionary tale, a historical account, or something in between? Let's sift through the evidence. One of the most popular theories points us to the Mediterranean, specifically to the island of Santorini, known in ancient times as Thera. Around 1600 BCE, a colossal volcanic eruption, one of the largest in human history, blew the center out of the island. The resulting tsunami and ash cloud would have devastated the thriving Minoan civilization on nearby Crete, a culture known for its advanced art, palaces, and maritime trade. The parallels are striking. A powerful island civilization suddenly wiped out by a cataclysmic natural disaster. Archaeologists, excavating the site of Akrotiri on Santorini, have unearthed a remarkably preserved Bronze Age city, buried under layers of volcanic ash, much like Pompeii. Could this be the real-life inspiration for Plato's Atlantis? The timeline fits. The catastrophic end fits. And the Minoans were certainly an advanced society for their time. The main discrepancy is the location. Santorini is inside the Pillars of Hercules, not beyond them. But perhaps Plato took artistic license, blending historical memory with philosophical allegory. Now, let's venture where Plato originally directed us, beyond the Pillars of Hercules, into the vast Atlantic Ocean. This is where things get really interesting. For decades, researchers have scoured the Atlantic for signs of a sunken landmass. One tantalizing area is the Azores, a group of volcanic islands located on the mid-Atlantic ridge. Geologically, these islands are the peaks of massive, underwater mountains. Some theorists propose that a larger landmass, an Azores plateau, could have existed here and subsided due to tectonic activity. Sonar mappings have revealed underwater structures and unusual topography, but conclusive evidence of a sunken city remains elusive. Could the advanced technology Plato described be a memory of a society that understood earth sciences and navigation far better than we assume? The Atlantic theory is grand, ambitious, and perfectly matches Plato's geographical description. Another compelling Atlantic candidate lies closer to the Spanish coast. In 2011, a team of researchers using satellite imagery and ground-penetrating radar identified what they believe could be memorial cities, built by refugees from a sunken island, hidden within the marshlands of Donana National Park in southern Spain. Their theory suggests a massive tsunami, originating from the Atlantic, wiped out a coastal island city right at the mouth of the Mediterranean. The survivors then moved inland and built smaller cities in the image of their lost home. The location is just outside the Pillars of Hercules, and the geological evidence for ancient tsunamis in this region is very strong. This theory uniquely combines a sunken island with tangible, land-based archaeological sites, offering a hybrid model that's incredibly intriguing. It connects the legend directly to a specific, testable location on the map. Moving away from specific locations, some geologists have a different perspective. They suggest that the story of Atlantis isn't about one single place, but a geomyth, a collective memory of real geological events that occurred at the end of the last ice age, around 11,000 years ago. As the glaciers melted, global sea levels rose dramatically, submerging vast coastal plains and continental shelves all over the world. Imagine entire coastlines, home to prehistoric settlements, disappearing beneath the waves over generations. Doggerland, a no-submerged landmass that once connected Britain to mainland Europe, is a prime example. It was a rich hunting ground for our ancestors before it was slowly inundated by the rising sea. Could the Atlantis story be a distilled, mythologized account of this widespread global event, passed down through countless generations until it reached Plato? This theory explains why so many cultures around the world have flood myths and legends of lost lands. It transforms Atlantis from a single city into a universal human memory of a changing world. But what if the answer isn't on Earth at all? A more French, but fascinating theory takes us to a different kind of sea. The Sea of Space. The ancient astronaut theory posits that Atlantis was an outpost of an advanced extraterrestrial civilization. The incredible technology, the advanced knowledge of engineering and astronomy, and the sudden disappearance are all explained as the actions of visitors from another world. While this idea lacks the archaeological or geological backing of the other theories, it speaks to the sheer wonder and mystery of the Atlantis legend. It captures the human desire to believe in something greater, something beyond our own history. It frames Atlantis not as a lost city, but as a lost connection to the cosmos. So, from the volcanic ruins of Santorini to the muddy marshes of Spain, from the depths of the Atlantic to the vast expanse of our collective past, the search for Atlantis continues. Each theory offers a unique lens through which to view Plato's enigmatic tale. Perhaps Atlantis was a real Minoan city, destroyed by a volcano. Perhaps it was a landmass in the Atlantic, swallowed by the ocean. Or maybe it's a powerful echo of our ancestors' struggle with rising seas, a story that resonates with our own challenges in a changing climate today. The truth may still be out there, buried beneath sand and sea, waiting to be rediscovered. The legend of Atlantis is more than just a story of a sunken city. It's a timeless exploration of civilization, catastrophe, and the enduring power of human memory. It reminds us that our own world is fragile and that great civilizations can vanish, leaving behind only echoes in a story. Was Atlantis a real place? For thousands of years, this question has captivated thinkers, dreamers, and explorers. The story, first told by the Greek philosopher Plato, describes a magnificent island empire, a utopia of advanced technology and immense power, which vanished beneath the waves in a single day and night. But is it just a story, or could there be a kernel of truth hidden in this ancient myth? Let's dive deep into the past and explore the empires that might have inspired the legend of Atlantis. Plato's account is incredibly detailed. He describes Atlantis as an island larger than Libya and Asia, combined located beyond the Pillars of Hercules, which we now know as the Strait of Gibraltar. Its people were descendants of Poseidon, the god of the sea. Their capital was a marvel of engineering, with concentric rings of land and water, magnificent temples covered in precious metals, and a powerful navy that dominated the seas. But their hubris, their pride and greed, angered the gods, leading to their cataclysmic downfall. For centuries, people took Plato's story as history, but as time went on, and no giant sunken continent was found in the Atlantic. Most scholars began to see it as a philosophical allegory, a cautionary tale about the dangers of imperial ambition and moral decay, meant to contrast with Plato's ideal state of Athens. It's a compelling argument. After all, Plato was a philosopher, not a historian. But what if he wasn't just making it all up? What if his story was based on fragmented memories of real, historical events? This is where our investigation truly begins, and our first major suspect is the Minoan civilization, flourishing on the island of Crete and other Aegean islands from around 2700 to 1450 BC. The Minoans were a remarkable Bronze Age culture. They were not Greek, but their influence was immense. Their palaces, like the one at Knossos, were labyrinthine structures with stunning frescoes, advanced plumbing, and no defensive walls. This suggests a civilization secure in its power, much like Plato's description of Atlantis. The Minoans were a thalassocratia, maritime empire. Their ships controlled the trade routes of the eastern Mediterranean, connecting them with Egypt, Dinea, East, and mainland Greece. They were renowned for their art, their sophisticated society, and their peaceful prosperity. Sound familiar? A powerful, advanced island nation ruling the seas. The parallels to Atlantis are striking. So what happened to them? Around 1600 BC, the volcanic island of Thera, now known as Santorini, exploded. This was one of the most violent volcanic eruptions in human history. It was a cataclysm of unimaginable scale. The eruption triggered colossal tsunamis that would have radiated across the Aegean, slamming into the northern coast of Crete, where many Minoan port cities and settlements were located. Imagine waves hundreds of feet high wiping out your entire fleet and coastal infrastructure in an instant. The eruption also spewed a massive plume of ash into the atmosphere, which would have blanketed the region, poisoning agricultural land and causing a dramatic, if temporary, climate shift. The economic and psychological blow to the Minoan civilization would have been devastating. While it didn't destroy them overnight, it critically weakened them, leaving them vulnerable to invasion. Shortly after the eruption, the Mycenaean Greeks from the mainland took control of Crete, and the once great Minoan culture began to fade into memory. Could this dramatic, real-life collapse of a powerful island civilization, passed down through generations, be the source of Plato's tale? The timeline is a bit tricky. The Thera eruption happened about 900 years before Plato's time. But Plato, in his story, claims the events happened 9,000 years before his era. However, it's possible there was a translation error. Some theories suggest that when the story was passed from Egyptian records to the Greeks, a symbol for 100 was misinterpreted as 1,000, shrinking that 9,000-year gap to a much more plausible 900 years. If that's true, the timing fits the Minoan collapse almost perfectly. But the Minoans aren't our only candidates. Let's look at the context of the wider Mediterranean world around 1200 BC. This was a period of chaos and collapse. Great empires that had stood for centuries, like the Hittite Empire in Anatolia and the Mycenaean kingdoms in Greece, suddenly crumbled. Major cities were burned to the ground. Trade routes were severed. It was a dark age, and one of the primary agents of this chaos was a mysterious group known to the Egyptians as the Sea Peoples, Egyptian inscriptions. particularly at the mortuary temple of Ramesses III, describe a confederation of seafaring invaders who swept down from the north, laying waste to everything in their path. The inscriptions state no land could stand before their arms. They conquered kingdoms and left a trail of destruction before they were finally stopped at the borders of Egypt. Who were these sea peoples? Their identity remains one of history's greatest mysteries. They were likely a coalition of different groups, displaced by famine, war, or environmental disaster. Some scholars suggest they might have included displaced Minoans or Mycenaeans, Sardinians, Sicilians, or even Trojans. What matters is the memory they left behind. A powerful, mysterious naval force that emerged from the sea and brought mighty empires to their knees. Could the legend of Atlantis' aggressive military campaign against Athens and Egypt be a distorted memory of the Sea People's invasions? Plato's story describes Atlantis trying to conquer the entire Mediterranean before being stopped by a coalition led by ancient Athens. This narrative of a powerful maritime invader being heroically repelled fits the historical reality of the late Bronze Age collapse in Egypt's struggle against the Sea Peoples. The idea of a powerful, aggressive force from the sea was a very real and terrifying memory for the civilizations of the ancient world. The connections don't stop there. Think about the location. Plato places Atlantis beyond the Pillars of Hercules. While this points to the Atlantic, it could also have been a more general term for the far, unknown West. Fascinatingly, recent discoveries off the coast of Spain, near the Donana National Park, have revealed what some researchers believe could be memorials to an ancient city destroyed by a tsunami. They theorize that this city, part of the Tartessian culture, was the true inspiration for Atlantis. While highly speculative, it shows how the myth continues to inspire real archaeological exploration. So, where does this leave us? Was Atlantis a real, physical place exactly as Plato described? Almost certainly not. There's no evidence of a sunken continent in the Atlantic, and Plato's details about the city's layout and divine ancestry are clearly mythological. However, it's very likely that Atlantis wasn't a pure invention. It was probably a composite myth, a powerful story woven together from the threads of real historical events and cultural memories. The story combines the memory of the sophisticated, powerful Minoan civilization and its catastrophic end by a volcano and tsunami. It incorporates the terror of the mysterious sea peoples, who brought Bronze Age empires to their ruin, and it serves as a philosophical vehicle for Plato to explore themes of power, corruption, and divine justice. The myth of Atlantis is so enduring not because it's a treasure map to a lost city, but because it taps into our collective memory of great civilizations that have risen and fallen. It reminds us that even the mightiest empires can vanish, brought down by nature's fury or their own hubris. The search for Atlantis is, in a way, a search for ourselves, for the echoes of our deep past, for the lessons hidden in the stories passed down through millennia. The real treasure isn't a city of gold beneath the waves, but the rich tapestry of human history that inspired its legend. Have you ever wondered about a world lost beneath the waves? A magnificent city, home to an advanced civilization, swallowed by the ocean in a single, catastrophic day. This is the story of Atlantis, a tale that has captivated explorers, philosophers, and dreamers for over 2,000 years. But is it just a story, or is it something more? Today, we're diving deep into the legacy of this lost city, exploring how the myth of Atlantis has shaped centuries of exploration, inspired countless works of art, and fueled an eternal search, not just in the depths of our oceans, but in the depths of our own minds. The tale begins with one man, the ancient Greek philosopher, Plato, around 360 BC. In his dialogues Timaeus and Critias, Plato introduced the world to Atlantis. He described it as a powerful and advanced island kingdom, larger than Libya and Asia combined, located beyond the Pillars of Hercules, what we now call the Strait of Gibraltar. According to Plato, the Atlanteans were a noble and powerful race, descended from the god Poseidon. Their capital city was a marvel of engineering, a series of concentric rings of land and water, adorned with temples coated in gold, silver, and a mysterious, glittering metal called auric. For generations, they lived in harmony and virtue. But as mortal blood diluted their divine ancestry, they grew corrupt, filled with greed and hubris. Their ambition led them to wage war against Athens, but the valiant Athenians repelled them, angered by their impiety. The gods, led by Zeus, unleashed a terrible punishment. In a single day and night of violent earthquakes and floods, the island of Atlantis disappeared into the sea, lost forever. Now, the crucial question is, was Plato telling a true story? Most historians and archaeologists today agree that Atlantis was a fictional creation, a moral allegory. Plato likely invented the story to illustrate his philosophical ideas about the ideal state, using the virtuous, ancient Athens as his model society and the corrupt, powerful Atlantis as its cautionary counterpart. The story served as a powerful warning against imperial ambition, moral decay, and divine retribution. For Plato, it wasn't a historical account. It was a thought experiment, a parable about what happens when a society loses its way. But the power of a good story is that it often takes on a life of its own. Even in antiquity, the debate raged. Plato's own student, Aristotle, dismissed Atlantis as pure fiction. Yet, others were not so sure. The idea of a lost, utopian paradise was too tantalizing to let go. And so, the search began. As the centuries rolled by, the legend of Atlantis detached itself from Plato's original text and morphed into a symbol of all lost knowledge and forgotten golden ages. The age of exploration, starting in the 15th century, breathed new life into the myth. As European mariners charted unknown waters and discovered new continents, the question arose: could one of these new lands be the lost Atlantis? Some early maps of the Americas even labeled parts of the New World as the Atlantean island. Thinkers like Francis Bacon, in his 1627 novel of The New Atlantis, imagined a utopian society discovered on a remote island, a place of scientific advancement and enlightenment, directly inspired by Plato's tale. The search for Atlantis became intertwined with the very spirit of discovery, a quest for a perfect world that might just be over the next horizon. This fervor reached a fever pitch in the 19th century, thanks to one man in particular, Ignatius Donnelly. In 1882, Donnelly, a U.S. congressman and amateur writer, published Atlantis, the Antediluvian World. This book became a sensation. Donnelly argued, with elaborate and seemingly scientific reasoning, that Atlantis was not only real, but was the mother culture of all ancient civilizations. The Egyptians, the Mayans, the Incas according to Donnelly, their pyramids, their writing, and their knowledge were all inherited from Atlantean survivors who had escaped the cataclysm. He connected linguistic similarities, flood myths from around the globe, and architectural parallels, weaving them into a grand, unified theory of a single, lost origin point for all of humanity's great achievements. Donnelly's book single-handedly moved Atlantis from the realm of philosophical allegory into the world of popular pseudo-rock, where it remains for many to this day. Following Donnelly, the theories grew even more fantastical. Theosophists like Helena Blavatsky claimed that Atlanteans were a highly evolved root race with psychic powers. The famous sleeping prophet, Edgar Cayce, gave psychic readings describing the lives of people in Atlantis, claiming they harnessed the power of giant energy, Christos, whose misuse ultimately caused their downfall. These ideas, though completely lacking in scientific evidence, captured the public imagination. Atlantis was no longer just a lost city. It was a mystical realm of superscience, spiritual wisdom, and paranormal abilities. This is the version of Atlantis we often see in comic books, movies, and video games. Today, a powerful, technologically advanced civilization, often with a touch of magic. So, if there's no credible evidence for a sunken continent, why does the search continue? Well, some modern theories have tried to ground the legend in actual historical events. One of the most popular hypotheses links the Atlantis story to the massive volcanic eruption on the Greek island of Thera, now known as Santorini. Around 1600 BC, this eruption was one of the largest in human history. It triggered colossal tsunamis that devastated the northern coast of Crete, the heart of the highly advanced Minoan civilization. The collapse of the Minoan culture, a powerful maritime empire that dominated the Aegean, has striking parallels to Plato's tale of a naval power suddenly vanishing. It is plausible that the memory of this real-life catastrophe was passed down through generations for over 1,000 years, becoming embellished and transformed until Plato adapted it for his own philosophical purposes. While Santorini is not in the Atlantic, and the details don't match perfectly, the core of the story, a brilliant civilization destroyed by a natural disaster, is compellingly similar. Ultimately, the enduring legacy of Atlantis may have less to do with a physical place, and more to do with what it represents in the human mind. The story taps into a deep, universal longing. It's a story of a paradise lost, a what-if of human potential. It speaks to our hope that humanity was once greater, wiser, and more in harmony with the world, and our fear of losing it all through our own arrogance. It's the ultimate cautionary tale, reminding us that even the mightiest civilizations can fall. The search for Atlantis is, in many ways, a search for ourselves. It's a quest for lost origins, for a forgotten wisdom, and for proof that we are capable of creating a perfect world. It fuels our sense of wonder and our desire to believe that there are still great mysteries hidden from us, waiting to be discovered. Whether it's a sunken continent, a Bronze Age island, or a philosopher's invention, Atlantis exists as a powerful cultural touchstone. It lives on in our books, our films, our art, and our collective imagination, a eternal city, forever lost, but never forgotten. It reminds us to explore, to question, and to dream of the incredible worlds that might lie just beyond the edge of the known. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into the heart of the Atlantis myth.